Hey, welcome to another episode of Dave's Imaginations. Today we're going to recap Thursday, February 3rd's episode of Dave's Imagination Presents Dark Queen Ascension Adventures in Barovia. Stay with me. Yeah, so last night in Dave's Imaginations Presents Dark Queen Ascension's Adventures in Barovia. Last night we had our third part in a series where Strider was off trying to complete his quest to defeat Sangzor. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang was invading, clearing out a werewolf den. And so let's think about this. So let's start with Strider. Strider this is a third session that he had been off on his own trying to take on Sangzor. He had changed himself into a giant eagle and flew to Amber Temple, where he got directions to their cave in the top of the mountain peaks, where he would find Sangzor. And over the last two sessions, he did just that. He flew there, he flew up to that cave and took on Sangzor. And quite the battle it was, as he traded blows and became unconscious at least twice and was brought back to life by the lovely Ukalik, who happened to be watching him and hiding out herself in this cave. So as he would pass out, Ukalik would drag him in and revive him with a good berry. And then Strider would heal himself up with his own druidic magic and bolster himself. And twice this happened, that he fell, and twice she pulled him in and bolstered him up. And by this third time he went out, he dropped his shield, grabbed his scimitar in one hand and his spear in his other hand, and he set back out to take on Sangzor. And as he did, he looked out there and he could see that Sangzor had tried to retreat, but he was hobbled himself, near death. Sangzor was near death himself, and he went out there. Strider went out there and cautiously went up there, but he failed his stealth attack, and Sangzor looks behind him and sees him, and Sangzor tries to give a one last kick with his hind leg, but he misses, and then Sangzor tries to pull away, but as he pulls away, Strider jabs him with that spear and rips into his hind leg, and giving him the death blow. And with that death blow, Strider dragged Sangzor back to the cave and started to skin him, take his pelt off of the goat. And I rolled a nature check, and it wasn't so great, but it's good enough to get most of the hide off. This thing is huge. It's a 20-foot tall goat, and so there'll be plenty of hide to make the requirements of his quest. And then with the hide off, he he chopped the head off of this goat, and then he wrapped that head up in the hide and bundled it up, and he said farewell to Ukalik. But Ukalik wasn't gonna depart or separate from him that easy, as she transformed into a rabbit, jumped into the bag herself, and allowed him to fly them off back down to the Amber Temple, where they found the wildlings, and the wildlings all were joyous with the defeat of Sangzor, and so they took the pelt, they took the horns, severed the horns from the skull, and began to craft these items that Strider is expecting as the reward for this quest. And as he was going through this celebration, he started to understand what these wildlings were saying, and now he can speak their language. And that's pretty much where we left Strider, as he's taking a long rest with the wildlings. Now the rest of the crew back at the wolf den. Meanwhile, back at the wolf den, as we added a sound effect, figured out how to add a sound effect to OBS so that we could have that fun sound effect. But meanwhile, back at at the wolf den, the rest of them are trying to take down as many of these wolves and werewolves and dire wolves as they try to reach. As previous session, their leader had been killed, and the rest of them tried to retreat from the wolf den. And as they did, many of them were cut down. One significant was of significance is that Olak. Olak was able to hit one with his lightning bolt, and so he, using his lightning bolt, has claimed the life of a humanoid, which is important to him. So, so after they were done, after the werewolves had retreated, the gang went and investigated the rest of the wolf den, where one, they looked at Carol's body and they found this tattoo, and I'll throw that up on the screen. And that's one thing they found. Next thing they found was that this temple, it was called the Shrine of the Mother Night. The Shrine of the Mother Night, and I have a better picture. And so they went to the Shrine of Mother, and that's where they got the load of coin. So it was something like 280 strad, and as well as 900 silver pieces, and a couple other artifacts, a bunch of gemstones, a bunch of 50 gold piece and 100 gold piece gemstones. So that was pretty cool. And then they had the cages where they pieced together. They had these young children in these cages, and then from there they went up behind the curtain of human skin. Right behind the curtain of human skin, they went up to the top where they had the stone ring, and the stone ring, they found bodies of the children up against the mountainside, and this seems to be where they forced those kids to fight each other. But with that realization done, nothing else really up there. They seemed a little disappointed. That's the story they had. That was in the per the book. So pretty nice coin in the Mother of Night temple. They killed Kirill the boss, and they cleared out a lot of the wolf den. And from there, they went back to the tower where they met up with Rictavio, and they met Rictavio, Esmeralda, and Mr. Fuzzy Boots, right? Mr. Fuzzy Boots, the tiger, as they began to discuss how they're going to deal with Strahd. They shared each party shared what they had. Rictavio shared his story with how he at one time had battled Strahd, thought he had killed him, and left this land with Esmeralda's help, and then was brought back as Strahd had seemingly come back to life, and so Rictavio is very pessimistic, but ultimately with the being convinced of how powerful this group is, as he did his detect magic and he saw that these guys had a lot of magic items, and not to mention the Tome of Strahd and the Holy Symbol of Revenkind. So with all of this, they convinced Rictavio that they could perhaps take on Strahd. And through their conversation, there was an initial proposal that perhaps in 3 days from now that the party would send a bird to notify him that, hey, now is the time. And so with that conversation had, the party went back to their lodge, and that's where we finished the night. So both parties, both Strider's having his long rest with the wildlings, as well as the rest of the party going back to their lodge and seemingly would have a long rest. So we'll see how that goes next week. So yeah, that was last night's adventure. Until then, take care. Energize.